Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Look Under the Wig. I'm your host, Amy O'Neill, and today we're going through a synopsis of Engelbert Humperdinck's Hansel and Gretel. Hansel and Gretel first premiered in Weimar on December 23rd, 1893. That's why it's usually associated with Christmas, because that's when it premiered. Fun fact, it was first conducted by Richard Strauss. Now, I know we all know this story a little bit, but there are some differences in the opera, so hopefully you'll have a good time listening to the synopsis and watching me transform into the witch. Alright, let's get started. Act 1 opens on the cottage where Hansel and Gretel live with mother and father. Hansel and Gretel are being rowdy children. They're supposed to be doing chores. Hansel's complaining about how he's hungry. So they're like, we don't need to do chores. Let's just dance instead. So they're dancing it out, and then Mom comes in and she's furious. She's like, you guys are supposed to be doing chores. Mom is like, I cannot deal with you kids right now. I need you to get out of here, go to the Ilsenstein forest and look for strawberries. The kids bounce to the forest, and then while Mom is alone, she's all sad. She's like, I can't feed my children. Boo-hoo, it's so sad. Then Dad comes home. He's been drinking. Mom is irritated. He kisses her roughly. Then he pulls out this giant feast, okay? Let me make sure I get this right. Bacon, butter, flour, sausages, 14 eggs, beans, onions, and a quarter pound of coffee. A feast. So we can't feed the kids, but the dad came home with a whole feast for Mother to make. And then Dad looks around. He's like, where are the kids? She's like, oh, they were bugging me, so I sent them out into the forest to look for some strawberries. He's like, what? Don't you know a witch lives out there? She turns children into gingerbread and eats them. I put some unnerving contacts in, and now we're going in hard with the glitter. Mom and Dad are obviously concerned, so they go off into the forest to look for the children. End of Act 1. At the top of Act 2, we hear the first of the two most famous pieces in the opera, The Witch's Ride, Hexenrot. Act 2 opens on the kids in the forest. Gretel makes a flower crown. Hansel's looking for the strawberries. He puts the crown on Gretel and dubs her queen of the forest. They're just out there being kids having fun. Then they hear a cuckoo bird and they start eating all the strawberries, and then Hansel dumps the last of them in his mouth, and Gretel's like, Mom is gonna be so mad at you. So they start looking around for more strawberries, and then a little man appears. The little man is like, I'm the Sandman, and I love you, and you're awesome, and I'm gonna put you to sleep. And right before they fall asleep, Gretel's like, we gotta say our prayers. And then we hear the second famous piece from the opera, the Evening Prayer, or Abendsegen. Everything I own is covered in glitter. Alright, so then the kids go to sleep and they dream of 14 angels, which I'm just realizing now is the same amount of eggs that Dad brought home earlier, which I don't think is relevant, but I'm going to mention here anyway. End of Act 2. Act 3 opens on the kids still sleeping, and the Dew Fairy emerges. She starts sprinkling the morning dew and starts singing about how great it is to be alive. The kids start to stir. They're waking up, they look at each other, they're like, whoa, crazy dream, right? 14 angels, what was that? They're looking around, they see behind them a gingerbread house. And because, as we know, these are bad children, they start to nibble on the house. And as they nibble, they hear a voice. Who is nibbling on my house? And they're like, nom nom, must be the wind, I don't know. The witch pops out and catches Hansel with a rope. He tries to escape, and then she introduces herself. I'm Rosine Leckermau. Roughly translated, it means raisin sweet tooth. She says, hello, little children. I love to feed children. Are you hungry? And they're like, sus. Hansel gets out of the rope. She whips out her wand, freezes him, puts him in a cage, and he can't move. She's like, come now, Gretel, be agreeable. Go get some raisins and almonds to help fatten up Hansel. Hansel's like, psst, Gretel. Like, pretend to follow directions, but like, don't actually, and I'm gonna pretend to be asleep. And then the witch whips out her wand again and makes Gretel dance. Dance, Gretel, dance. And then she makes her set the table, and then she decides she's gonna eat Gretel, so she's all over the place. She goes over to Hansel and she's like, let me see your finger. He gives her a bone, and he's like, here's my finger. She's like, oh, you're still so skinny. Back to the original plan. Gretel, go get some almonds and raisins and we'll fatten him up. So the witch is feeding Hansel, and then twist! Gretel grabs the wand, says the magic spell, and then Hansel can move again. The witch is like, "Oh, Gretel, go look in the oven and see if the gingerbread is done." Hansel's like, "Gretel, watch your six. This witch cannot be trusted." The witch is like, "Come on, Gretel, stick your neck out, look in the oven, like this." And Gretel's like, "You look like a goose." Gretel decides to play dumb. She's like, "Can you show me how? How do I look in the oven? Show me." The witch is frustrated. She's like, "Fine, and like shows Gretel how to look in the oven. And then Gretel shoves her in the oven. They're dancing, they're celebrating, the flames are getting higher and higher, and they're like, "This is fine." And then the oven explodes. Now, there's all these gingerbread children who were lining the fence of the house, and they all start to come alive again, and they all say they want to be touched. So Hansel and Gretel grab the witch's wand, and they start booping all the children, boop, 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 and they all can move again. They all come alive. This is all happening, and you can hear Hansel and Gretel's father crying out in the distance. He emerges, and they embrace. All the children go and pull out the now gingerbread witch. Hansel and Gretel's father gather all the children around, and he reminds them that this is heaven's punishment for evil deeds. He says, "When the need is greatest, God the Lord puts out his hand." End of opera.